It was not a meeting, if it occurred, that the United States was involved in, so I just don't have any more information on it.
I would say that the Muslim Brotherhood, number one, is doing what it does best, which is pretending that it really understands the situation and is desperately trying to recover. They are going back to what had been their previous strategy for getting into power in the first place, which is to work secretly, to attack, to actually defame and to spread distortions and lies about their enemies, to spread division among their enemies.
A report from Sky News Arabia, an explosive report, suggesting that the Muslim Brotherhood is getting together the leaders from Egypt, Tunisia, Hamas, all throughout the Middle East, meeting in Istanbul to talk about one thing: getting Mohammed Morsi back into power and getting the Muslim Brotherhood back into power throughout the Middle East. This, as the Deputy Secretary of State, Bill Burns, traveled to Egypt, and he met with officials there of the interim government in Egypt, saying that the U.S. is going to be supportive of Egypt's efforts to set up a government quickly. We're back with the panel. Charles, what about this meeting of trying to reverse the Muslim Brotherhood's fortunes?
It's very interesting that it's happening in Turkey, because I think that the hand of the Turks is extremely important here. Erdogan, the president of Turkey, I think, sees himself as the new successor to the Ottoman Empire. The Ottomans, the Turks, controlled the Arab world for half a millennium until the First World War. And now what Erdogan has done by supporting the Brotherhood is he sees Turkey now as the great guarantor and ultimately the senior ally of the Muslims, the Sunni Muslims, and he has seen the Brotherhood in Gaza, in Egypt, in northern Africa, and even the Brotherhood in Syria in the civil war, as the instruments of this resurgence of Turkish hegemony in the region. So and they had their high moment with the election of Morsi, and then within a year, it's all dissolved. And that, I think, is the great reaction now. Is there any way to salvage this? Is there any way to restore them to power? I'm not sure the answer is yes, because the Brotherhood would have to go to war, as the Brotherhood did in Algeria in the 90s, and lost. It looks as if they're going to go underground instead.
In this document that Sky News Arabia obtained, it suggests, Mara, that the Brotherhood believes the only countries it can really trust are Turkey and Qatar.
Well, they're getting support from both of them. Certainly Al Jazeera it's even been accused of being so pro-Brotherhood that a bunch of journalists quit. Based in Qatar and supported by the Qatari government, if that's the correct word. But look, the problem in Egypt is that the Muslim Brotherhood doesn't really believe in democracy. Certainly the military doesn't. But the liberal secular forces are totally disorganized and can't win an election. So if you're going to have some kind of reconciliation, some kind of national unity government, the Brotherhood is going to have to be part of it in some way. And I don't really know how this gets resolved. I mean, right now we're back to where we started. We have a military government in Egypt.
Bill.
I'm heartened that if this document is correct and accurate and not disinformation of some sort, that the Muslim Brotherhood thinks that the coup in Egypt was a real blow to the Muslim Brotherhood and to Morsi's failure to govern adequately and to keep the forces that did elect him, after all, by a very narrow margin, behind him. If he failed, that's a good thing. I hope we aggressively push to support friends elsewhere in the region who are neither military nor Muslim Brotherhood. But look, at times you've got to pick the lesser of two evils, and it may well be the military is the lesser of two evils in this case. And they do seem intent to try not to govern forever and to hand it over to some kind of civilian leadership. I think people have been much too quick. The Arab Spring happened. A lot of people, this is great, it's wonderful, liberal democracy. Then a year later, it's horrible, it's hopeless, it's the Arab winter, it's going to be a nightmare of the Muslim Brotherhood governing everywhere. It's a very complex region. It is an unbelievable turmoil after being sort of frozen in amber for 30, 40, 50 years. I think people should be patient, but it does mean the U.S., I think, in a lot of indirect ways and some direct ways, try to play an active role. And I think actually the President sending Deputy Secretary of State Burns to Cairo now was a good thing. And
is it fair to say, and some of the criticism coming from Egypt and what was the opposition now heading towards interim government, was that the U.S. Ambassador Ann Patterson really went out of her way to meet with Muslim Brotherhood leaders even outside the government, almost too much so, and there was not really any pushback from back here in Washington to say, hey, you can't rip up the Constitution, you can't dissolve the Supreme Court here in Egypt?
No, I think generally the Obama administration has had too friendly, or maybe it's just too fatalistic, a sense that, well, the Islamists are the only game in town, so we have to be kind of nice to them. But maybe Bill Burns showing up today is a sign that they've learned a bit of a lesson.
As he said himself, time to do some things over and get them right.
Right, and particularly on our part, the administration had got it wrong for a year, the Morsi administration, when it supported him. But now I think it's getting it right into quietly supporting the generals at an attempt to put together an interim government of technocrats instead.
That is it for the panel. Stay tuned to see